Ready for a countdown? Guys, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
What's up, Padres? I'm here with my boy Ryan today with another Friday show for you guys.
We've got a lot of great stuff for you guys, including 2 segments on... Whoa. Wait, what's going on here?
Hey, what's the holdup?
I think you guys are in our seats.
I think we're supposed to anchor.
I
thought
swear, it's us.
But it's our names on the teleprompter.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess.
Be.
Okay.
Might be. Sorry.
Thank you.
You're right.
Sorry about that.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Friday, March 2nd, 2018. Do you know what that means?
Since 1987, the U.S. has celebrated March as National Women's History Month, so we are here to celebrate with all you ladies out there. I'm Molly.
And I'm Rayan, and welcome back to
The Friday Show. Today is a minimum day, so school will be out at 12:20.
That's always great news. However, the library will be closed at 4 today, so make sure to plan accordingly.
Don't forget, freshmen, if you are playing a sport and want to waive your PE class, you can pick up an application in the counseling office from Mrs. Von Ruden.
If your closets are busting at the seams and want to get rid of some of your stuff, donate to the Class of 2018's Sober Grad Rummage Sale fundraiser. You can drop off anything you want to donate in the theater lobby, March 8th through 10th.
Don't forget, your donations are tax deductible.
Any students in the 9th through 12th grade who are looking to pursue their dreams now have the chance. Thanks to Ron Stoney, who created the Ron Stoney Educational Pathways program, anyone who applies has the opportunity to gain financial aid from many different experiences. If you're interested in summer internships, STEM, language immersion, or college prep programs, this one's for you.
But remember, applications are due by March 15th and can be found on Moodle or the College and Career Center.
Applications for the Mark Steffen Memorial Scholarship are available in the College and Career Office. Applications are due Friday, March 23rd.
Hey Ryan, do you have all your community service hours? You know you need 60 to graduate.
Yeah, Molly, actually, I do. I mean, not to brag, but I've got 62.
Well, for those of you who aren't as cool as Ryan, we have a few more opportunities for you to get those last few hours in.
This month, Me Earth will be hosting restorations of native plants on March 10th and March 24th. Don't worry, snacks will be provided.
Not only that, Our Lady of Mount Carmel Church needs volunteers for serving dinner every Friday night through March 23rd. Also, Teddy Bears with a Heart needs volunteers for their Bingo for Bears event on April 22nd.
If you're interested or need those hours ASAP, check out the online bulletin on Carmel High's website for more contact information.
So Ryan, you seem like an organized person. Do you have your life after high school figured out yet?
Nope, not even a little bit.
That's okay. Let's hear what other seniors have to say about their lives after high school.
I'm enlisting in the Air Force.
I plan to go to college, Southern Vermont, and play basketball.
I'm not going to college. Probably just gonna work,
I plan on going to a junior college and getting my 2-year, getting everything done on my prereqs.
As you can see, not all seniors from Carmel High plan to go to the basic 4-year college after high school. The next question I had for the seniors was,
I don't know. I have no idea, honestly. Probably sitting at home, feeding babies by myself.
Hopefully alive. I hope. Maybe have a son, potentially married.
I don't know, in the woods.
I want to say married with kids and being a physical therapist with my own clinic. But, kind of hard to predict the future.
as you can see, every senior has a different path from where they want to go after high school. Not all of you seniors have to go to where you're told to go. Choose the path that is best for you.
At least I know I'm not alone. Now let's talk about some club meetings today.
Red Cross in room 37.
K-pop in room 3.
Frisbee on the football field.
Investment Club in room 27,
and Diversity in room 9.
Speaking of clubs, I believe we have 3 ladies from the Environmental Club here to talk about our environment.
Let's head over to see what they have to say.
Hi, my name is Kendra Hiles, and today I'm here for the Environmental Fact of the Day with Kristen Anderson and Sierra Brenton.
Every minute, 2 million plastic bags are used. This directly affects our environment and oceans. You can help this cause by using Tupperware and reusable containers. Thanks for listening.
Okay, I'm confused about something.
What's that?
I heard wrestling did pretty good this year, but I haven't heard much talk about them.
You know what? That's a good point. Good thing we have a segment on them ready to roll.
The season's been good. The team's doing well. We placed at least top 10 in a couple of tournaments there as a team. Individually, a couple of our guys placed well. Probably all know Kurt Brophy, really good guy, good wrestler. It's kind of like any other team. You have a special bond with your teammates, but at the same time, it's like very individual. You know, you wrestle for yourself, but you do it for your team too, and you go and support the team, your teammates, and everything. It's great.
Before we end our show today, let's talk about sports.
Good luck to Model UN at their 2-day competition this weekend at UC Berkeley, and to mock trial for their field trip to San Jose on Saturday.
Also, we have boys volleyball versus Placer at Placer on Saturday, along with girls varsity softball versus Salinas.
And finally, freshman boys baseball versus Soquel at CHS, and boys baseball CCS championships on the same day as well. Good luck, everyone.
Well, this has been our show.
Wait. We want to end it with you.
Okay. We'll see you guys next week on The Friday Show.
Stop looking at what you ain't got. Start being thankful for what you do got. Let's get it to him, baby girl. Hey. Fancy clothes, fancy cars, and then you see you're gonna go far if everyone knows who you are. So live your life. You steady dressing that bed bar, just live your life.
Welcome to episode 2 of Earth Experts. Today we have Lisa Emanuelson, who is the volunteer coordinator who works for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. In this episode, we are going to be discussing community action, and we brought Lisa here because she is an expert in that. So a first question that we could have for you would be, do you run any programs locally that encourage or educate about community action in terms of how people contribute to protecting the environment?
Yeah, that's a lot of what I do. And so I coordinate and run on an average of 5 to 7 different volunteer programs throughout the year. And some of them are focused specifically on collecting data, and some of them are focused on sort of interpreting the wildlife and things like that. And they all really have a component in the training and kind of what we do. They always have a component of what people can do more in order to improve the health of the oceans and the health of the planet in general. So.
And what is an example of like one of the programs that you run?
So right now I'm recruiting and I'm about to start the training for my interpretive programs, which are called Baynet and Team Ocean. And one of them is a shoreline naturalist program, and then the other is a kayak naturalist program. And so we have a 9-week training that we do with our volunteers, and we go through all kinds of things like marine mammals and birds and also oceanography. And in there, we also talk about watersheds and pollution sources. And because people are talking to members of the public, and they have their own passions, they oftentimes will bring those in, like no straws or plastic bags and things like that. And so we have that sort of element always within the context of what we're talking about, sort of threats to, ocean resources and things that we can do to improve it. Because you always need to balance those. You can talk about the stuff that's happening, but then you also need to make sure that you come up with some good solutions to it.
And are you using the data that you collect to like make a research paper, or do you just kind of collect the data to like look at trends over time or something like that?
So for those two programs, which are interpretive programs, we collect data on how many people we talk to. So those two programs combined, we talk to about 60,000 people a year, just, walking down the recreation trail or out on the water. For our other programs, which are really focused more specifically on water quality, most of the time that data that we collect from storm drain outfalls or from creeks and rivers or, within infrastructure, that actually goes to a specific audience. So, and we do look at trends over time. So coming up on May 5th, we have a program called Snapshot Day, where we look at the health of creeks and rivers as they're flowing into the sanctuary. And that's a program that we've been doing since 2000. So this year is our 19th year. And we look at the trends over time of all that data that we've collected. So we have creeks all the way from Pacifica down to San Luis Obispo, and we have all this data for them. We want to see, are things improving, are things not improving? And so we take all of our data and we do a bunch of statistical analysis on that data to make sure that we have, an understanding of what's happening. So,
and in terms of like getting volunteers to help out, who do you choose to be your volunteers, or do people contact you, or are they like interns, or?
We don't get a ton of interns because we just don't have a lot of capacity for interns. But when it comes to volunteers, people contact me. I put ads in the paper. My volunteers talk to other people out on the trail or whatever. So there's a lot of word of mouth, and then there's some advertising. And then typically throughout the year, I'm keeping constant lists of people that are interested in various programs, and I'll send them, an announcement for, Team Ocean, Bayonet training, or Snapshot Day, or First Flush, or, any of these other programs that we do. So.
And do you only work with like ocean-related data collecting, or do you also work with land and environment?
So most of what I do is actually all on the land. So it's in watersheds, it's storm drains, it's creeks and rivers. It's just these very few interpretive programs that I do anything actually on the water. Okay. But most of what I do is actually up in the watersheds, because as you guys know, when you're talking about ocean health, there's actually a lot that we can do on land to improve ocean health, and that's actually where all of our efforts really need to start. So.
And could you tell us a little bit about how you got into this field of work?
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. I was thinking about this actually a little while ago, because, for the last 25 years, I've had jobs that I've gotten that I've really only gotten by word of mouth, that people knew me, they knew about what I was interested in, and they contacted me to come and work for them. So living on Catalina Island, I moved out there and I worked in environmental ed for a long time. I helped to start an aquarium in LA. I also then ended up coming up here, and it's funny because a lot of that just sort of followed a pathway, and I always thought, oh yeah, that sounds really interesting, I'll do that. I never expected to do those things for very long, and then it ends up that you're there for a long time. So it's kind of it's interesting. It's like, how did I get into it? It's like, wow, I don't know. It just sort of happened. And, but everything I've done, I've always tried to build an awareness of ocean issues. I've always tried to build a community of people that are committed to that. And I think that I've done that with a lot of the volunteers. We have a couple hundred volunteers that I interact with every year. So it's one of those things where you just are kind of building and you're going a direction, but it just sort of all kind of happened.
Yeah, and that's what we're focusing on, like how can the community help raise environmental awareness, and how can we help keep the ecosystem clean and keep the watershed clean. And so if you had like a piece of advice that like us as high schoolers, that what can we do to influence our peers, and also to like what can we do on our own to kind of help keep the environment clean and safe. And
yeah, I think that there's a lot of things that you guys can all do, obviously, because you're pretty powerful. I mean, you're young, you have a voice, there's a lot of action you can take. I feel like I think that people inherently want to do the right thing. So sometimes people just don't know what the right thing to do is. So you have to sort of inform people on a broader scale to let them know sort of what the right thing is. Like thinking back about sort of current issues, I mean, straws are a big deal. Like we did a lot on the plastic bag ban. There's still more to go, but you know, now we can sort of go into these other forms of plastic that are sort of pervasive. I think, yeah, to sort of inform on a broader scale is a great idea. Don't get too bogged down that everybody isn't doing what you think is the right thing, because the people that are passionate or that you end up speaking to their passion, they're going to be totally into it. And then they're going to take that message to a broader audience. So I think that's an important thing. And then I also think that to pick one thing to really focus on is a really great idea. Plastic bags, I mean, that got a lot of attention, a lot of focus, and we've come a long way. There still needs to be a little bit more that needs to be done on that. But I feel as though marine debris is such a huge issue. It can be a little overwhelming because it's so big, but I feel like land-based sources of marine debris, if we could somehow tackle some of that, then that would actually be a great thing to do, and to sort of pick that one thing that you're going to do and focus on and really do a good job with informing people and taking action and trying to sort of move the discussion about that. But to focus on a whole bunch of things, everybody's focusing on a whole bunch of things. So to really hone in what it is that you guys are you're gonna try and tackle is probably a good idea.
Yeah, just kind of like set a goal for yourself and just really try to strive to achieve that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll turn it over to questions from our audience, and these are all high schoolers from Carmel High. Yeah. So any questions or comments?
Hello.
Hello.
So evidently there's a lack of concern like all around. So why do you think this lack of concern is present in the community, even if people like really know like what could happen and the risks of like what's happening today?
I think that there's not so much a lack of concern. I think people are definitely concerned. I definitely think people are concerned, because I mean, you look at the litter on the street. We would have a lot more litter on the street if people weren't concerned, and there'd be a lot more. There'd be a lot more that we'd be talking about. I think that it's hard for people to break their sort of inertia to making those changes. So, like as an example, in my own house, we don't use paper towels, like no paper towels. I mean, we have paper towels because we have cats and they, you know, throw up and stuff like that. But in general, we don't use paper towels. And it took a long time for my husband to get to a point where he was like, okay, no paper towels. And so I tend to be the person in our household that says, okay, this is what we're going to do. These are the changes we're going to make. And we're going to try these small things to kind of push us towards a direction. But for him, it's very difficult. He wouldn't think of that stuff on his own. And it's just hard for him to kind of get over that sort of lack of initiative, or not a lack of initiative, but that inertia. So we have these discussions a lot because people wash their cars in the street. You know, I live in a place where people wash their cars in the street, and that's like, you know, I go by people and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And you try to talk to people, and sometimes they're receptive and sometimes they're not. But you know, we're getting to a point where people are understanding that more, and it's easy for us to say, let's have a change right now. But, you know, a lot of the changes that we've seen in our culture, in our society, they take a long time. I mean, you guys have never ridden a car without a seatbelt. But when I was your age, cars didn't have seatbelts, you know, and look how far we've come with that, you know. Nobody wore a bike helmet. I don't even think bike helmets even existed, right? So there's a bunch of changes that have happened, and it's in your young lives, it's maybe a little bit harder to sort of see all those changes that have happened. And when you get to be older, you'll realize, yeah, there have been big changes. There's been big changes, but we still have a good distance to go. So, good question.
Hi, I was wondering, What kind of people usually are volunteering? Like, is there a specific group of people, like college students or older people who volunteer more often than others?
It really depends upon the program. So, as I mentioned, I have these 2 interpretive programs. Those tend to be retired folks, but not everybody. I mean, I get college students for those programs as well. They just have a little bit less available time. But, you know, the retired folks are the ones that are usually doing those programs. And then for some of my water quality programs that I run, Snapshot Day is a huge one where I get lots of college students that come out for that. Mostly because that's a lot of the places where I'm recruiting for people. So I'm always trying to figure out where to go to talk to people, to figure out who will actually come and show up to the trainings and to the actual event. And part of what I want too is I try very hard to reach out to communities where there's not necessarily good representation in my current volunteer pool. Because I feel like, you know, there's a huge diversity of folks that live here on the Central Coast, and so having a representation from all different kinds of communities is actually beneficial because we can raise awareness in so many different ways by including everybody in the communities. And people don't think, oh, well, that's, you know, just for those types of people, or that's just for those type of people. This is for everybody. So, but yeah, I get all kinds. I get all kinds, which is great. I love it. It's just fascinating. And I love, like with my volunteers, I just love hearing the backstories that they have. You know, I have lots of volunteers that were in the military. I have lots of volunteers that were just secretaries or engineers or doctors, or, you know, it's just a huge variety of people, and it's just awesome. It's just awesome. I'm always just humbled by the work other people have done.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Hi. I had a question. Just this isn't community action, but just a lot of measures have been taken to improve coastal watershed quality, and I'm wondering whether you guys are starting to see any of those measures actually show up in the quality of the water that you're collecting.
In some places, yes, and in some places, no. And in a lot of those actions or measures that have been taken, I mean, we're talking about a very long time that will take to sort of show improvements. Part of the problem is that there's really not a whole lot of funding for these long time data sets. So like I was mentioning with Snapshot Day, I also mentioned First Flush, which is our first major rainstorm of the year sampling. Those have been going since 2000. But in general, you know, you get funding for a monitoring program and it's a couple years, and you really can't show that much improvement in a couple years. You really need to have these very long data sets that show sort of the trends and the ups and downs and things like that. So yes, we see some improvements in some places, and in other places we don't, but that's going to take a lot longer to kind of to clear up and kind of improve. So, but yeah, but
Is there any particular place locally that people should be aware of that's still a problematic spot?
Well, you know, it's hard to say. Sometimes it depends upon weather, on whether those spots are maybe an issue. You know, you guys have probably gone down to the beach at various places around here and seen those signs that have the beach posted for high bacteria levels. So we still see stuff like that on our local beaches, and there's all kinds of reasons for those postings. I mean, there's all sorts of sources for those postings. Because bacteria comes from anything that's warm-blooded, so there's bacteria that can be from raccoons or people or dogs or whatever. So yeah, we still see that kind of stuff, and certainly our beaches are one of those major indicators that we all experience. I mean, I know when some of our local beaches get posted, I get lots of calls and texts from my friends that have little kids that always say, okay, so what does this sign mean? And what does that mean for us? And can we go to the beach? And that kind of stuff. So we still have those kinds of issues. In areas where there's the bottom of larger watersheds, and especially in agricultural areas, we tend to see a little bit more of an issue. And that's, you know, because of all the on-farm practices that are happening upstream are ending up in those downstream, bottom of the watershed areas, and those tend to have a little bit more of an impact. And those are things that we already know about, but to try and sort of move that to improve it is definitely a long process, a very long process. So. And you think about it, like Salinas Valley, it's 100 miles long. There's thousands of farms. To try and improve every single farm as you're going down the valley is a daunting task. But it's something that we actually work on through our Agricultural Water Quality Alliance, which brings in farmers and other kinds of funding measures to try to do nutrient management and that kind of stuff. So.
Great, thank you.
Sure. You had a question.
Hi.
Hello.
What would you say is the most significant pollutant or issue that you're seeing in our local watersheds?
That's actually, it's a great question. That is a fantastic question, because there is so much that we know about our local watersheds, and at the same time, there's so much we don't know about our local watersheds. There's an organization called CClean, which is, it's not SEA, it's CCLEAN, and they are hired by the wastewater treatment plants along the bay, and they test sediment out in the ocean, and they also do some mussel testing, the bivalves mussels, and they also look at water quality. And the things that they test for in their testing are not necessarily the things that we're testing for on land. So there's sort of a disconnect in there. And that's something, we know a lot about bacteria on land and certain types of nutrients like nitrate and phosphate and some of the metals like copper and zinc. But there's things that we don't know about, like pesticides and different kinds of herbicides and things like that, and how those things are getting used. Most of my work is in the urban environment, and so we don't know a whole lot about those kinds of uses in the urban environment. Farmers, agricultural areas are regulated through a different organization, and there's different monitoring that has to happen for them. But there's a lot that we don't know about how those kinds of things, those kinds of chemicals are getting used in the urban environment, and whether those might be having a greater impact in the ocean over what's happening in the agricultural areas. We just don't know it. There's just sort of a disconnect in how much information we have. So when we apply for grants or we go to the local cities and we're going to do some testing, we're always trying to find ways to fund that kind of testing, but it's for those different kinds of pesticides and things. But it's very, very expensive, and it's very challenging. And so we haven't really been super successful at getting funding for those things currently. But, for me personally, I see that sort of big unknown as the thing that is probably the most concerning, because we don't have any real solid information on it. So that's my big concern.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us. For me, what I took away is that every single person, if we all do something small on our own and focus on it, and also educating other people, I think that will help change a lot in terms of protecting the ocean and keeping it clean, and reducing plastic usage. And community action comes from people who care and people who go out and speak what they believe. And so, yeah, that's what I think is important. And is there anything else that you would like to say?
No. I encourage you guys to get involved and support the organizations through your actions that you really believe in their missions and things like that. So just by being there, by participating, it says a lot about what you believe in. So that's good.
Thank you.